Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today's video is going to be another Marvel Concept Champion character breakdown, and we're going to be speaking about the most powerful disabled person in Contest of Champions metagame currently, and that of course is none other than Ægon himself. Now Ægon is actually a Kabam original character and quite clearly its favorite kind of like creation child, because to date he is by far most capable and potent Kabam creation, the original character in the game, and he also holds his own at the very top of metagame, and one could argue that he is one of the most significant characters for endgame content right now in the game. So that immediately says a lot. So we can jump on to the next scene where I'm going to be doing kind of like a brief informational breakdown about Ægon, and then a bit later on here I can show that I have prepared a team with Ægon, and we're going to jump in and do some gameplay to showcase how he behaves as well. So let's put the wall back on and let's start throwing all sorts of text at the wall. So first and foremost, his like base information. So his champion name is Ægon. Everybody says Ægon, but that weird spelling of the letter, normally people just type in A-E, but that is how you actually spell it. Either way, so his name is Ægon, class is skill, his size is M, and only kind of main notable hero tags that he has is that he's of a hero class, so he's not a villain. Other than that, the base information is kind of like very simple about him. There's nothing, anything too special about him. But before we get any further, that one thing that we definitely have to note is that he's a ramp-up champion with a persistent charge. It means he can carry his combo meter from fight to fight, and the higher his combo meter is, the more abilities he unlocks. He actually has a whole laundry list of abilities that goes up to 999 combo. And before anybody else asks about how significant is the signature level, the truth and honest answer is, for content like Labyrinth of Legends and Abyss of Legends, you do not necessarily have to have Ægon at a super high sig, because signature 20 Ægon does exactly the same thing as signature 200 Ægon once ramped up to 999 combo, for instance. And in these long pieces of content you will get there. It will take you a couple of more revives, yes, fair enough, but you eventually will reach that point, and once you get to the combo that's needed, it doesn't matter what signature level there is. However, for shorter quests such as Act 6 or variants or whatever, signature level is extremely important, and you do generally want to get him up as high as you can. Now that being said, so his damage. Overall, he is one of the top shelf damage options. He does not necessarily have the biggest yellow numbers available in the game, but the consistency that he delivers his damage, because almost every single hit later on in the fights turns out to be critical, makes his damage output quite savage, especially if you abuse the mechanic where you charge heavy attack, get hit on purpose, mitigate the damage with Ægon's combo shield, and then distribute large portions of damage. I will try to demonstrate that ability a bit later on in the video as well. That significantly can raise his damage output when in dire need. Overall, his delivery method, as I mentioned before, is a ramp-up champion, so the higher combo meter, the longer the fights last, the more damage Ægon can distribute. His main distribution method is through critical hits, and there's nothing too special on his special attacks aside from bleed on level 2, which can do some juicy damage as well. But overall, the biggest thing that you should take away from Ægon is that he consistently is able to distribute high amounts of damage in pretty much any circumstance, and that is extremely important. Stability and consistency, and not dependency on RNGs, some of the best qualities that you can have in the game. Now, as opponent, actually he's very, very simple to defeat. There is absolutely nothing too special about him. His animations are relatively simple, apart from the double medium that can provide sometimes some problems and confusion if you're trying to like Quake or Away then Dex it in corner. Other than that, it's a very, very simple champion with very simple special animations that you can just outrange, so you do not have to learn the timing, how to Dex those special attacks properly. The thing to note about him is, when you're facing him on defense, you are obviously going to be striking him quite a bit, and every time you strike him he will gain a fury buff, and those fury buffs are actually quite huge. Now that, as I discussed previously, can be used defensively as well. When you're charging heavy attack, get hit on purpose, and the damage is capped at like 5%, and then you can distribute large amount of damage. However, when you are facing Ægon, basically he's consistently going to have these 6 fury buffs active. They are capped at 6, and that also means that he will hit you very hard when he does hit you if you make mistakes, so you kind of have to be careful when facing him not to miss a parry or something like that. But it also means that he is one of the most easily cheesable champions. For instance, Dr. Doom can just flat out infinitely Doom slap him in a corner, can use any Mystic character's fuel, Mystic Dispersion, and kick this disabled person's bum quicker than pretty much anything else in the game. And yeah, Ronin, infinite stun loops, you name it, basically anything that benefits from using opponents' buffs against them will have an absolutely fantastic time facing Ægon. Now we are going to be speaking about his most notable utilities. As I mentioned before, he has a laundry list of abilities. Vast majority of them activate based on the combo meter. And basically, the higher the combo meter, the more potent and powerful those abilities are. I'm not going to read out all of them, but they include him going completely unblockable, him being unstoppable, him critting through blocks, and him critting like crazy in general. But some of the kind of commonly most useful ones, aside obviously of his incredible damage output, would be the ability to shrug off any and all debuffs. This ability starts at 5 combo hits, but then it's not as notable, and it kind of gets an upgrade with the potency increased to 100% chance on critical hits to shrug off debuffs at 100 combo, and that is extremely achievable, and that is also kind of like a sweet spot. Once you get to 100 combo on your persistent charge or on your combo meter, Ægon's already kind of like top tier class champion. So when you're in Act 6, that pretty much means a fight or two and he's performing extremely well. And at that point, he's one of the most versatile champions in game already, because he can get rid of all the debuffs, so long as you keep striking opponent and so long as you keep critting. And even though it cannot work as like a full immunity in all circumstances, in vast majority of the circumstances, you can definitely bring in Ægon and bleed nodes and freezer burns and biohazards and whatever else you have. So long as you can have that ramp up fight, he is effectively immune to all debuffs. He has very cool interactions with special locks, for instance, where they will consistently try to reapply. He's going to consistently keep shrugging them off. So when you're not attacking the opponent, you have special lock on and you gain a willpower heal. And when you're striking the opponent, you shrug off that special lock and you still gain power. And there is just a very large amount of very cool interactions with what Ægon is capable of doing. And that is one of the kind of like most defining abilities of Ægon, that he can shrug off all debuffs, and that alone makes him extremely versatile champion. Now, another definitely notable thing is a very simple access to true accuracy. If you have reached 150 combo, every critical hit you land on your opponent will grant you a short duration true accuracy buff, but that is an actual active buff, and obviously you will be critting constantly, so you will for most part have multiple stacks of them on, and that will help you deal with evaders, will help you deal with auto blockers, so on and so forth. Then 300 combo, you get significant damage increase while Furies, but one of the more notable things is this is a thing you do not get to unlock too often, because that requires you to have 500 combo on your combo meter. So this is pretty much kind of exclusively a longer ability, longer quest ability, like Labyrinth of Legends, like Abyss of Legends, and Incursions, I suppose. And that would be defensive ability accuracy reduction when opponents have 0 defensive ability accuracy whenever you crit for the next hit, and that is very, very useful. That enables you to take down Electros, it enables you to take down a whole barrage of different champions. And notable uses, now I actually forgot to note one down here, so I'll rectify that quickly. So I wrote down specifically Incursions as well for notable uses for this guy. But basically, he is currently the only champion in the game that is capable of clearing every single fight in Labyrinth of Legends without much hassle. That's right, I'm quite sure to this date, the only champion in game that can quickly, effectively, super efficiently clear Labyrinth of Legends with minimum to no resource use pretty much. And he can absolutely destroy that thing because he keeps on the combo. So basically, a couple fights in Labyrinth, you're going to be starting every fight on 999 combo. His full potential unlocked insane damage output, true accuracy, preventing opponents from evading, ability to shrug off debuffs, and all sorts of crazy stuff, going unblockable, going unstoppable. So it's very hard to kind of like not solo opponents in Labyrinth when you have a stacked up, ranked up Ægon. And also Abyss. Abyss of Legends, he's probably the single most effective horseman for vast majority of your standard fights. Obviously Abyss has more diverse problems, therefore you do need more different champions to answer these problems. So that's why we have so-called 4 Abyss Horsemen, which he is a part of. But one would argue that he is the most important part of these 4 Horsemen, because I believe he takes on the largest amount of fights in Abyss, and he also kind of makes it the most cost-effective compared to any other damage-dealing champion option that you need for like your generic fights. So he's an insanely useful asset for Labyrinth of Legends and Abyss, which is, as we know, some of the harder content that Kabam has released and specifically designed to be extremely difficult. And also, prior to release of Act 6 and prior to the release of Abyss, people had this misconception about Ægon, that he's only good for Labyrinth and not much of anything else. And that is true. He can be used in AQ and AW, but he's not realistically the champion that's going to dominate those areas of the game, because you don't have sufficient amount of time of ramping him up, or if you need any other utility options, then he's not going to be as powerful by the end of the quest. And obviously the new defensive tactics also kind of do hinder him, in especially like in Alliance Wars in higher tiers. However, since Act 6 kind of increased in its complicity, health pools, and attacks, and the utility that required, Ægon has become one of the MVPs for Act 6 overall, alongside with Quake and Ghost, because the ability to effectively shrug off all debuffs, thus kind of nullifies so many different nodes, plus have an excellent damage output, kind of puts him on forefront of one of those champions that you consistently want to bring in each of every different quest, and use him as one of those specialty champions and as much as you can, because he will sort problems out that many other champions cannot, due to very incredibly kind of complex node interactions and complex solution finding systems, I guess you can call them like that. So Ægon is definitely shining currently in game as one of the better options for many fights in Act 6 and many different lanes in Act 6. So he's not just like a Labyrinth and Abyss king, he's also extremely potent in Act 6 now. Some more, I wanted to write this up specifically once again, his pseudo debuff immunity, and that alone makes him like an expert in very tricky matchups. For instance, some of the most favorable examples is when Kabam loves doing this recently, and they love putting on Void with a long distance relationship, and if that opponent's Void is stacked, basically whenever you strike Void, you will get these weakness debuffs on you, and you'll start losing a lot of health. So it means you're going to have to keep your distance, but if you consistently keep your distance and try to get rid of those debuffs, then Void places his own debuffs on you, and you take damage either way. So it's a very difficult fight, which is almost guaranteed to cause you a lot of very fun and interactive damage, no matter which choice you make. But Ægon kind of like just tears through that type of fights, because he can shrug off the weaknesses from the node, and he can shrug off Void's debuffs as well, regardless whether you do hit that 10 combo meter mark or not, because it's a debuff, he can shrug it off. So there are many different situations where you really feel relieved when you have access to that ability to shrug off all of the debuffs. And quite obviously the Incursions is a new game mode again that lets him carry on combo meter from room to room. So due to that, and due to the access to all of these fury buffs, which seems to synergize extremely well with many different boss modules and Incursions, he's by far one of the MVPs in Incursions, especially if you are looking to do like a big push for those higher rooms. It's an extremely potent and capable option to carry you in Abyss for pretty much the entire run. And yeah, the deeper you go, the more you play, the more potent his abilities will be. So all of that being said, I do personally believe it's time to issue a verdict for our Ægon, and that will be quite simple, that he is an account changing stud that opens doors to the most difficult content in game. So my personal verdict is seek and acquire, and then worship the guy, because he will help you progress in the game without a doubt. I know dozens of players who are constantly just kind of like stocking up resources and waiting for a time when they will either pull Ægon or dupe Ægon. One thing I might have forgotten to mention is that Ægon does require dupe desperately. And about the SIG levels, I did explain before that in Labyrinth and Abyss, you can make do with a lower SIG Ægon, but Act 6 and pretty much anything else in the game, you do really want to have as high signature as you can, because signature ability is the one that determines how much of your current combo meter you will be able to transfer to your next fight. Now, all of those things being said, let's jump to the actual game and let's play some game then. I am not currently running suicides, which is something I absolutely love doing with Ægon, because that gives him a quite significant additional boost to his damage output, because his initial fight is always like the worst, because for the first fight we can see that he's like not critting at all, the damage is underwhelming and it just seems bad. But that's just kind of like the first fight, especially the beginning of the first fight. Towards the end of the first fight, he typically is already performing quite alright. So this Namor has Strike Back node on. So I do need to be conscious when I drop my special attacks, which I will on purpose to kind of inflate my combo meter higher in this fight. And besides, I kind of feel better dropping avoiding Namor's level 2s instead of level 1s. But I guess we're gonna have to go for a level 1 this time. Okay, so this is one of my favorite bits in game, when Namor accesses his Imperious Rex. So that means I can hit him as much as I want and I don't have to actively bait out special attacks. I can just keep hitting him and it's all good. And the perfect place where to get Namor is just below 1 bar of power typically, and then try and keep him there for as much as I can, but unfortunately I let his power bars expire. Still, at this point you can see that I've gotten up to a 100 hit combo, so at this point I will already be critting more often than not. And if I would ever get any debuffs, which I'm going to demonstrate later, because there's going to be a fight against Void, and if we make it that far against Scarlet Witch as well, it's going to be super helpful to get all of those pesky things off me. So I think at this point I'm just going to drop level 3 and finish out the fight. So 130 hits, we can see that definitely is not a crazy damage output for a rank 5 champion fighting 150k Namor and whatever not. That is the kind of like weak point of Ægon. You have to get through the first fight, you have to get basically through the first 100 hits on your combo meter. Now once you have done that, you're going to have so much easier time, and we're going to compare 130 hits to however many it will take towards end of the quest, and that will be significantly less. And you're gonna notice that Ægon will not have like super high numbers. Obviously if you run Suicide Masteries, you're gonna have significant damage increase, because Ægon doesn't really rely on using special attacks, so he is very Suicide Mastery friendly. Additionally, he's able to shrug off the Suicide Mastery debuffs, so that also makes him even more suicide friendly kind of to a degree, because you have the benefit of the attack increase, but you do not have to suffer the mandatory kind of like damage from those poison and bleed debuffs. So it is super helpful. And we can see that the second fight here already 30 hits in, he is halfway down, so he did auto block me. Need to be careful on that. And I think not quite yet, but soon we're going to be approaching the 150 hit mark, which is effectively going to give me true accuracy, and then I wouldn't have to worry about the auto block anymore either. So there we go, we can see that true accuracy buffs are starting to appear whenever I land a critical hit, which is obviously super helpful. Ægon also has ability to crit through blocks, so that is another kind of like piece of utility where you can use him. One of kind of very popular use for Ægon quite often can be to bring him in, for instance, on do you bleed path. And even though he doesn't have like a great bleed debuff access, he does have bleed on level 2, but it's kind of like not enough. Do you bleed also allows you to damage opponents through block, and Ægon can distribute a very large amount through opponent's block, therefore kind of making him a perfectly viable option for do you bleed nodes, because you can very easily ramp him up in the first fight just by striking opponent normally, and then occasionally hitting their block, and then starting fight 2 he's going to be absolutely shredding the opponents. So I have 144 on my combo meter, and now we should have access to true accuracy buffs pretty much from the beginning of the fight. We're also going to see that whenever Void is going to drop his buffs, I'll be able to shrug them off early. Well, this time I just shrugged it off with my combo going over at 10, but... Oh, I forgot about strike back. Whoopsie. Whoopsie. We can see that the debuff got shrugged off pretty much immediately. Now the fight is over, and we can see that now at this point he's already kind of tearing through the fights with 40 hits, when the initial fight was 130 hits or something. So let's check out what will be the nodes on this guy. Kind of forgot, and then I'm going to try and demonstrate the... So it's still strike back, the heavy attack thing, but in order to do that I need to get rid of these away charges. Okay, so I don't have any away charges now anymore, which is kind of perfect. I'm just gonna bait out. Whoopsie. Well, we got hit outside of the plan, but you can definitely see that the damage increase now is very substantial. Okay, so the best way that I personally like to get hit on purpose by opponent is do a full combo and then immediately go into heavy attack. And then typically I'd like to follow it up with like a level 2 or something to kind of capitalize on it. But this was once again a mistake. It's forgot about strike back. Man, it's such a simple node, but I forgot about it quite often. Forget about it. Well, yeah, so here we go. And the big kind of damage jump Ægon gets to kind of go from very good damage output to really good damage output typically comes at a 300 combo meter, because then he also gains access to fury buffs offensively when he's striking the opponents. Now, once again, this is not the most impressive footage of Ægon. You can look out on my channel or many other channels where people run Ægon with full boosts and suicide masteries, and thanks to the way he delivers damage, he delivers so much more damage. So we're up against Loki now. Presumably still strike back. Come on, lad. You can just tap his block. We can see that they're hitting very hard through the block. Let's drop that level 2. Some decent bleed. Let's go back and, well, finish the job in block. It was 4.5k crit in block, not too bad. 38 hits. Now Miles Morales, another great chance to showcase his ability to prevent evades on opponents. So we have 232 combo. Another kind of like big characteristic is obviously because Ægon carries on finishing the fights quicker and quicker, the higher his combo meter is, because the more he crits, the higher his damage is, and obviously you finish out the fights faster. So initially the first fight takes a while and you amass large amount of combo in that fight, but then every other fight goes so much quicker and you do not get the chance to increase your combo meter by all that much. Another cool ability is that if opponent sneaks in a wade somehow, somewhere, by some chance, he immediately activates a combo shield. So that kind of like can save you in many fights. Make sure that you do not lose your combo meter. It's very neat little ability, because that frequently is the most typical way how you would lose your combo meter, is after opponent evades and just hits you in the face. But if opponents do evade, then you immediately get this combo shield active. And now let's go off against Scarlet Witch. So this should be quite interesting showcase, because you can see that Scarlet Witch obviously is going to be placing lots of debuffs on me, because I'm going to be critting a lot. But as I'm critting a lot, we can see that all of those debuffs are immediately shrugged off, and that is what I kind of mean by pseudo debuff immunity. Because so long as you're aggressive, you immediately shrug off anything and everything nodes or different champions place on you. And here we can see that that already was some more decent damage output. So unfortunately, I don't think I can showcase Ægon against this Electro now, because I haven't reached a 500 kit combo, and without that, Electro would just chew away at my health. But however, I think it was a relatively decent kind of like showcase on how Ægon gets more stronger and stronger and stronger as he goes along. And as he goes along, he unlocks new powerful utility abilities. So he's not only like a ramp up damage champion, he's also a ramp up utility champion, and given the right circumstances, he can answer very large amount of problems in this game throughout, and that is what makes him so valuable. And mainly and primarily, I do believe that to be that ability to shrug off the debuffs, obviously in combination with everything else. So just quickly before we finish, you can see that yes, there is a whole bunch of abilities. I'm sure you can check it out in your own game, because now you can check out all champions' abilities, even if you don't own the champions. So that's kind of cool. And yeah, so that will pretty much do for today's video. So we can just jump back up here, and we're gonna be done. Before that, obviously, I do need to mention that I'm gonna be trying to do these videos for every single character in the game. And so if I sort out characters alphabetically right now, after Ægon, we will have Agent Venom, which is a much more simple character, but also I think will make for a quite interesting video. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, then here is a Baby Yoda for you. And if you do like Baby Yoda, then that's awesome. If you did not like today's video, and if you do not like Baby Yoda, well then here's something else for you. But either way, that is me done for today. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share, and I will catch you guys soon. See ya.